Grief and sleep are deeply intertwined together. So whether you are lying awake at 2 a.m. with a racing mind or waking up after 13 hours of sleeping and still feeling tired, this is all normal in the landscape of grief. But that does not mean that you have to suffer through sleeplessness or oversleeping without some kind of support. Hi there, grief growers, and welcome back to Grief Grower. I am so grateful to be here with you today, as always. If you've been growing alongside me in my work for a while, welcome back. And if you are new to me and my work, hello. My name is Shelby Forsythia. I am a grief coach, 3-time author, and the founder of Life After Loss Academy, which is an online course and community that has helped dozens of grieving people stop feeling lost, stuck, broken, and alone, and start building lives that they genuinely love from the lives that loss forced them to live. And we just surpassed more than 65 students in Life After Loss Academy. On this podcast and across all of my work, we include and honor not only death-related losses, but also losses like divorce and breakup, major diagnosis, and every single other type of loss that changes your life. Here we believe that grief is not something we get over. It is something that we grow with and alongside, and that when we stop treating grief like a problem to be solved and start treating it like an invitation to live more deeply, we create meaningful lives that are rich with the memories that we carry, all of the struggles that we faced, and the preciousness of what it is to be here right now. Before we get into this episode, just a quick reminder that release day for my third book, which is called Of Course I'm Here Right Now, it is that giant poster behind me, it is this book in my hand, is coming up in less than 3 months on March 31st. This little guidebook, this is a skinny book, teaches you how to support a grieving person in your life with the best free tool that any of us has at our disposal, and that is words, so that you will never enter into another conversation with a grieving person, whether you're supporting a friend, a family member, a coworker, a neighbor, a client in some form of your work, wondering, what on earth do I say to support them? As an author, pre-orders are very helpful to me, so if you have not pre-ordered the book, please do so at the link in the show notes. If you have already pre-ordered the book, and I know so many of you have because I'm getting Instagram messages and emails every single day, thank you so much. You can submit your receipt number from Bookshop, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you have ordered the book, your local indie bookstore, on my website at shelbyforsythia.com to access the free 6-week book club where we will read Of Course I'm Here Right Now in its entirety as a group together and discuss it as a group. This book club kicks off in the first early part of April, so make sure that you have your copy of the book before then. And last thing before we get into today's episode, if you would like to celebrate the launch of this book with me, I am hosting 2 launch parties that I would be so honored if you would attend. The first one is taking place the eve before the book actually comes out on March 30th here in Chicago. So if you want to get your hands on a copy of the book before it's released to the rest of the world on March 30th, I hope you'll join me in Chicago. The second one is the day that the book comes out, which is March 31st here on YouTube. So no matter where in the world you live, you can tune in to hear more about the clients and interactions that inspired the phrases that are in this book, and also what to say to support the people who are grieving in your own life. I'll be reading excerpts from the book. I'll be taking your questions. We'll be doing it all. And yes, as per usual, the replay will be available if you cannot attend that launch party live. You can find tickets for both of those events, again, at shelbyforsythia.com or at the link in the show notes. Okay, today's podcast is one that is very near and dear to my heart because it is about sleep. One of my favorite things, one of the hardest things after both of my losses, the loss of my mom in 2013, the death of my best friend in 2022, and across other seasons of loss in my life, being diagnosed with a chronic illness, the breakup of an engagement, the world being what the world is right now, job loss, other things, any other season where sleep has been difficult. Grief and sleep are deeply intertwined together. And no matter in what way loss is tearing through your life right now, your relationship to sleep can radically change, sometimes seemingly overnight. Either you can't fall asleep no matter how exhausted you feel, or you can't get enough sleep. Sometimes both are true in the same week, or in the same day. So whether you are lying awake at 2 a.m. with a racing mind or waking up after 13 hours of sleeping and still feeling tired, this is all normal in the landscape of grief. But that does not mean, and I want to drive this home today, that you have to suffer through sleeplessness or oversleeping without some kind of support. So today on the show, I want to cover 11 grief-informed ways from a grief coach, hi, hello, to sleep better, divided into 3 sections so that you can help yourself be able to rest again, even if nothing else in your world feels restful right now. So the first category that I want to get into, I'm going to give you 3 sort of phases or stages of things you can do with sleep, is what to do during the day to help you sleep at night. I think a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that like sleep prep happens like in the hour, maybe the half hour before you go to sleep, but a lot of preparing to sleep is made up of what the hell is happening during your day. And if you have been grieving for more than one night, you know that a grieving brain and a grieving body do not automatically switch to off at bedtime as much as you might like it to. So if your days are filled with things that are chaotic and overstimulating, or on the other side of that spectrum, your days are filled with things that are numb and motionless, as one client of mine said, stuck in frozen mode, your nervous system is likely still jittering on some level or hopping around on some level when your head hits the pillow at night. So these are daytime practices that you can do that help regulate your body and your nervous system and your brain so that you are not carrying so much into the night when you are trying to sleep. The first one is to move your body, even a little bit. And this is not about weightlifting or burning calories. This is things like walking or yoga or dancing to a song in your kitchen. All of these things are really helpful for releasing the griefy stress and restlessness that can build up during the day. This is about shifting your focus from the mind spinning, the anxiety, the rumination, the things to do, and the heart aching, the emotional aspects of grief, into the biological of your physical body to be soothed and regulated in the face of grief. And something that I like to offer clients and students a lot is this: if you consider how you might physically comfort a suffering or a wounded animal or a crying baby, and then picture yourself as that living creature in need, what would you do to comfort them? You might rub your arms and legs. You might pat your chest lightly, like super gently, even bouncing in place. Sometimes I do this at the train. I will just like bounce from foot to foot to get stress out from the day on my way to work, on my way home from work, after reading the news. There's all kinds of reasons to be bouncing from foot to foot while you are waiting for something else or doing something else. These are all beautiful ways to relieve stress and to settle your nerves during the day. And I'll say, of course, I will use some validating language here. Of course, if you want to run, if you want to go climbing, if you want to do jumping jacks, if you want to lift heavy weights at the gym, you can certainly do this. In 2024, I was featured in an article by Pop Sugar about running to cope with grief. It was something that I instinctually just started doing when we got the news that my mom was dying. I would just run up and down my street. And then after she died, I kept running to get the stress of grief out of my body. But that level, that intensity of vigorous exercise is not the only movement that can tucker you out and settle your nerves. Movement of any kind can help your body calm itself down during the day so that it can recognize that it's safe enough to rest later. And I'll give you little asterisk bonus points here. If you can exercise outdoors, do it. Natural light, movement, both of these things married together can help reset your internal sleep-wake clock, especially if you're able to move in the morning or like when the sun goes down and as a transition to nighttime. So like any time of day is fantastic, but especially in sort of like those dawn dusk hours when the world is making its own transitions, your body can be making those transitions from brain to body or from waking to sleeping as well. Number 2 in this section of things to do during the day is to set small and repeatable rituals. We talk about this all the time here on Grief Grower. Grieving people, me, you, often feel unmoored and untethered, disconnected from daily life, like the world has turned upside down and they're just floating out in outer space. Does that sound familiar? So anchoring yourself with any sort of small, repeatable action, whether it's related to your grief or not, always having tea at 10 a.m., checking the mail at 4 p.m., creates rhythm and groundedness and a sense of order to your day, especially when grief makes everything feel out of order. So the more grounded and consistent your day feels, the more your body believes that it can let go safely at night. You are welcome to fold grief, if you like, into your small repeatable ritual. Inside Life After Loss Academy, which is my online course and community I mentioned at the top of this show, I teach at the very beginning something I call the 1% rule, where we devote literally 1% of your day, which is about 10 minutes, to spending time with grief. This could look like lighting a candle or journaling or looking at a picture of your loved one or talking to them. It could be listening to a couple of songs or engaging with a grief book or a podcast like this one. Once your 10 minutes is up, once your 1% of your day with grief is done, you are free to go about the rest of your day, knowing that you will literally see your grief again tomorrow. If you would like to learn more about the 1% grief rule, and I can help you design your own, if that's interesting to you, you can join Life After Loss Academy at the link in the show notes. But yes, any sort of small, repeatable ritual, especially if you're setting a timer for yourself where you do it at literally the same time every day, is really helpful for your nervous system when it seems like everything is disconnected from everything else. Give yourself some measure of small foundation to stand on. Okay, the third one is to take naps. And this might seem counterintuitive, but if your body is begging for rest during the day, it's not lazy. I'm of the belief that laziness did not exist. I'm of the belief that grief is really grueling work. And so short naps around 20 to 30 minutes can help you restore your energy and keep your body going until bedtime. The key is when you're grieving is to not punish yourself for needing naps. If you have thoughts like, geez, why am I so tired? Why am I so lazy? I should be able to power through the day. Consider reframing this kind of rest, these little bursts of rest, by saying or thinking to yourself, I am doing everything I used to do, now with the added weight of grief. That is heavy, and it is okay to need more rest right now. That's a really validating thing to say to yourself or to any other member of your family or friend group who is finding themselves needing more rest than usual in this season. Number 4, and the last one in this section is things to do during the day, is a thing to not do. And that is to limit digital overstimulation, things like social media, TV, movies. I think we're in an era right now where a lot of people are demonizing social media and being on screens. I'm hesitant to write things off entirely because the way that I connected to grief support, especially after my mom's death, and the way that so many people find my work now is online. And so I think that you do not need to avoid the world entirely or like write off phones and television entirely to get better sleep. But it does help, I think, to avoid specific flavors of overstimulation on any of those platforms. So things like doom scrolling or getting into fights on social media about politics or cooking or otherwise, or binge watching loud, intense, or violent things. These all can serve as temporary escapes from grief, but they can also rev up your nervous system for long after you turn off the phone or turn off the TV or put the device away for the night. So as much as you can while you're grieving, and this can feel like a bigger project beyond like the early days of grief and loss, is to balance social connection and entertainment, which we need both of as humans to continue existing. We need to connect with other people, and we like and enjoy feeling entertained. I feel like art is a necessity in our world. TV, movies, that qualifies as art, music as well. Try to balance those things with quiet time or things that are soothing to your nervous system. Many grieving students inside Life After Loss Academy report limiting social media after loss and re-watching lighthearted comfort shows, for example. So things like Schitt's Creek or Friends or The Golden Girls, which is my personal favorite, are all really helpful in the face of grief. And so kind of not necessarily saying I'm never watching TV now that I'm grieving, but what can I watch that might be more comforting than violent or cliffhangery or things that are going to like remind me of my person who died in a negative way. These are all ways to support your nervous system during the day so that you can sleep at night. Okay, let's move on to our second category. And this is what to do right before bed to help you sleep. This is what most people think of when they think of sleep tips. Nighttime is often the hardest time for grieving people. This was very true for me after my mom died because the distraction and the to-dos of work and the day that I just lived kind of fade into the background. And the world becomes very quiet, and the ache of grief sort of sneaks up from below and becomes its loudest cranked up volume that it is of all the times you are consciously awake, of all the times that you are present in your life and having thoughts go through your head. And nighttime rituals, things that far folded into your time getting ready for bed, can help signal to your body that now, even though grief is louder than it is most times during the day, it is also time to rest. The first one in this section is to say goodnight to your person who died or to your grief. If you are grieving a non-death loss, I'll get to you in just a second. And this involves a little bit of imagination, but it is a ritual that I call tucking your grief into bed. So just like a childhood bedtime prayer or kind of a ritual of tucking someone else into bed, a creature or a child, you can say goodnight to a loved one who died or to your grief out loud or silently as you are going to bed. You can tell them what happened in your day. You can ask to be protected during the night. You can talk about the dreams that you might like to have or the type of rest that you would like to get in order to get through tomorrow. You can certainly talk about your dreams for the future in waking life, things that you would like to see happen in the future, or talk about upcoming grief milestones. You can literally use this time to talk about anything. And an example that I can give from my experience grieving my mom is before I would go to bed, I would just talk to her. I would say things like, "Hey mom, as I head to bed, please keep me safe from nightmares and show up in my dreams and my sleep in ways that feel beautiful and restful. I miss being able to talk to you so much. And I thought of you today when I found a penny on the ground at the train station. I love you so much, and I will talk to you again tomorrow." That is a way that I very much have spoken to people I love who have died right before bed, almost like a prayer or a blessing, like people might pray to God, but talking to a loved one. Whether or not you believe they can hear you and respond, it is still a way to get these emotions out of your mind, out of your heart, give them somewhere to go, and also feel more connected to your person who died. If you are grieving a non-death loss and you like the metaphor of tucking your grief into bed, consider what you might be able to do to make your grief comfortable in that moment and say something like, "Dear grief, thank you for another day spent together, whether I wanted you around or not." You can be totally sassy with grief if that resonates with you. "I know you never really sleep, but I hope you can find your own kind of rest as I find mine. If you choose to show up in my dreams, please let the memories you bring be kind and gentle. I would especially like to dream of," and then illustrate a dream scenario that you would like to have here. "I'll see you again tomorrow." And whether you're talking to a person who died or to the figure, the personified image of grief, this small ritual can bring you so much peace in your heart and in your nervous system and give your grief a metaphorical place to rest for the night. And that can be like, okay, it's almost like I'm taking off the suit of grief and setting it down, or I am plugging in to recharge for the night with a person who I love very much, and now I am going to sleep. And so either one of those visuals, whichever one resonates with you, of like taking off grief and setting it down somewhere, or plugging it in like an electric car charger to a person you love, or multiple people you love, or a horde of ancestors who are watching over you, those are really beautiful rituals for winding down into bed. The second one in this section is to journal with intention, and this is one of my favorites because it's a huge thing I did, at least for the first 4 or 5 years after my mom's death, is journal on and off, but pretty religiously, about my loss and a bunch of different things. So if your mind is racing when you lie down, if you're still wired and tired, give your grief another place to go, and that is paper. So trying a 5 to 10 minute journaling practice, answering a single prompt can be really, really helpful. You might answer something like, "What do I need to get out of my brain before bed?" That is very generic, can cover just about everything. And gives you a lot of opportunity to be like, well, you could talk about things that happened during the day. You could talk about fears during the future. You could talk about an interaction you had with a friend. You could talk about this philosophical thing you were thinking about. You could talk about the show you were watching. You could write about so many things in a journal under the umbrella of what do I need to get out of my brain before bed. The second one, and this is tied to grief dreams, which we talked about on a previous episode of Grief Grower with Dr. Joshua Black, is if I could dream about my person or my grief tonight, what would I want that dream to be like? And really writing down what sort of dream would I like to have? And you can go to shelbyforsythia.com to listen to that episode and to look at the journaling prompts that we listed there for invoking your own positive grief dream before you go to bed. Joshua's research has shown that the thing that helps you have positive grief dreams more than anything else is simply thinking about dreams more often, and also considering the types of dreams you would like to have and thinking of those before you go to bed. Another great journaling prompt is, what is one interaction today I would like to release? And another one is, what small, beautiful thing did I see today? So if any of those 4 prompts resonates with you, take it, grab it and go. You're also welcome to come up with your own. Some people do gratitude journals. Not everybody can do gratitude in the face of grief. Some people do bullet journaling where they write down one memory or one thing that stuck out to them during the day. And then you have a year's worth of small moments to look back on. You might even use your moments before bed to practice something that I call 2S's journaling, which is another tool that I teach inside Life After Loss Academy. And it is a way of tracking your progress and your growth in grief without needing success to be linear. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can kind of see how progress and growth and grief, I'm kind of doing little star dots all over the screen without needing progress to be linear, drawing a straight line up and to the right. Society often insists we grow in a straight line, that we only ever be getting better in life after loss. And that simply is not how growth in grief works. And so being able to use this tool called 2S's journaling, which I teach in Life After Loss Academy, you can notice these two areas of your life and sort of monitor them and see how they change and how they grow and how they evolve over time. And it's not necessarily, am I doing better than I was yesterday? It's, am I growing? And because you're a human being who is still alive on this earth, the answer is always going to be yes. But what's very cool is that as your 2S's change over time and you can see weeks and months of data add up in a journal, you can see what areas of your life you're focusing on or the things you're trying to release or the things that you're moving towards in life after loss. And it can help you feel like, yes, I am growing, just in a way that is different than what society insists of me. This is the thing that I folded into my journaling practice, whether I did it once a week or I remember to do it once a month after my mom died. And looking back on 4 or 5 years of 2S's journaling absolutely changed how I measured. Am I growing? How am I growing? Is it good the ways in which I'm growing? Do I like the path that I'm on? All these sort of larger existential questions in Life After Loss. So again, if you would like to learn 2S's journaling, come learn with us in Life After Loss Academy. It is always open year round. Okay, the next one I'm going to give you in this section is to use Insight Timer or any other meditation app for gentle sleep support. Insight Timer is the one I always recommend. This is not an ad because it's free. It is a free app that offers hundreds of thousands of meditations and sleep stories and podcasts and music tracks from mindfulness experts and teachers all over the world. You might try searching for grief sleep meditation or body scan for sleep or music for falling asleep or soothing sleep stories. And you can even set timers inside of the app to help you drift off to sleep without worrying about your phone staying on or playing something all night. So if you're into the apps, if you're into the technology, you can find all of these things and so much more on Insight Timer. And if you'd like to go listen to old episodes of Grief Grower, Grief Seeds, Coming Back, my very first podcast, you can find all of those on Insight Timer for free, and they're kind of all located in one place. To my knowledge, there are no ads. It's very calming and soothing. You can upgrade to do things like take courses and go on retreats, but I never use it for that. I use Insight Timer just to have someone talk me down to sleep or to play soothing cello music as I fall asleep and to set a timer for 10 to 15 to 30 to 60 minutes so that my phone turns off before bed. The last one in this section is my all-time favorite and one I do almost daily, and that is to take a hot shower or bath. I don't know why, but I almost always get cold before bed, and so sitting in the shower for 10 minutes, my wife and I call it baking. I just go in and cook myself, basically. She can't handle it. I just lobsterify myself. And then to cool down as I lie in bed overnight is one of my favorite things. And I also preheat the bed before I get into it. We have an electric mattress pad, and so I heat only my side of the bed and turn it off as soon as I get in at night. And so I'm literally just so warm, and then it's like my bed is a cooling rack. I am a loaf of bread. My bed is a cooling rack, but cooling down for me helps me fall into sleep faster and then stay asleep during the night. This may not be you. You might be Team Cool Sheets Club, which is totally fine. But even if you are Team Cool Sheets Club, taking a bath or taking a shower is a great way to indicate to your nervous system that now it is time for bed. There's the ritual of it. There's the lighting of it. There's the smells of it. You can even sing or hum or do deep breathing while you're in the shower. A lot of eucalyptus soaps and smells are made for things like that, or other scents that you enjoy, perhaps things that remind you of a person who died. These are wonderful ways to, again, signal to your body, to your nervous system that a ritual for bedtime is happening. And so the thing that follows this is obviously sleep. And you can almost train yourself to, I take a hot shower and then I get into bed and slide into that space of sleep a little bit more easy just by putting a hot bath or a hot shower between watching Netflix and going to sleep, or brushing your teeth and going to sleep, or packing up dinner leftovers and going to sleep. Putting something else that's calming to your literal body in between those two things can help make the transition into sleep a whole lot easier. Alrighty, the last category, and the one that's sort of like an SOS part, is what to do if you wake up in the middle of the night. And this is something that is true for so many grieving people. If you wake up in the dark, whether your heart's pounding or your mind is spinning, know that this is a very normal part of grief. And it doesn't mean that something is wrong with you for not being able to sleep. These are all ways to take care of your grief and your nervous system when you are somehow magically, unfortunately, up at 3 in the morning. The first one in this section is to try ASMR videos for insomnia specifically. These are videos on YouTube, on other platforms, and ASMR stands for Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response. This is like what a lot of people would call having chills or tingles or a sense of being comforted or cared for. A lot of people get them like during real life massages or like getting their hair cut or things like that. ASMR videos are sleep savers for so many people who are grieving. YouTube comments are flooded with people of like, I've been listening to this ever since I started caregiving for my mom, or I've been watching your videos ever since my dad died, or I've been listening to this ever since my sister died by suicide. They're just filled with comments of people who are navigating grief on some level, whether it's job loss, whether it's world events, whether it's personal losses like a divorce or a breakup, things like that, heartache. ASMR videos are ways that so many people get through them. And in the videos, you can expect very slow, very non-jarring movements and soft sounds. So things like whispering or tapping or keyboard clacking or brushing or gentle affirmations. And the purpose of them is to calm down your nervous system and help you drift back to sleep. I'll give you 3 of my favorite creators. The first one is called Gentle Whispering. Her name is Maria, and she is known for soft-spoken, appointment-based role play videos. So things like visiting a hair salon, getting your makeup done, or participating in a sleep study is very funny. You literally watch a video of you participating in a sleep study with Maria essentially pretending to be the person who's doing your intake and putting like electrodes on you as you sleep. And then she turns the lights down and then there's sleep music. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's very cool. It's like its own sort of transition into sleep. The next one is Chill With Me, Hannah B. Her name is Hannah, and she does interaction-based videos, so it's usually her and another person getting pretend Reiki sessions or chakra balancing or muscle testing exams and massages. They're all pretend, they're all fake. She's not a medical provider, but just pretending to do these sorts of sessions with people that are intentionally soothing is a really lovely way to kind of soothe your own nervous system back into sleep. The last one I'll recommend is GB ASMR, and this one is kind of sillier. If you're a person who's like, the chill stuff doesn't necessarily resonate with me because I'm not interested in like going to a video spa or a video massage or getting my video makeup done, GB does some silly ASMR, and I call it inconsequential ASMR. Like, it doesn't matter if she gets it wrong, or it doesn't matter if it applies to your life. So she does things like tracing tattoos or playing games and you just watch her play games, or creating new fonts on an iPad, which is a thing I didn't even know you could do. But the sounds are quiet and the narration is soft. And it's one of those things where it's like, it doesn't really matter what she's doing, but it sounds lovely and looks appealing, and then pretty soon my eyelids are slamming shut. And I know the same is true for so many grieving people. So if you've never heard of ASMR before, you can try it and see what works for you. There's so many different flavors of ASMR. There's so many different creators online. And to be fair, if you don't want like the blue light of a screen, totally valid. You can listen to ASMR with the screen face down and the volume turned down low, or you can do what I do, get like Bluetooth headphones that operate as an eye mask as well. I will say, for some people, ASMR is like a huge nope for their nervous systems, and that is a-okay. Sometimes the sounds of keyboard clacking or whispering or hair brushing are agitating to people more than they are soothing. So if that's the case for you, you might try listening to very boring, soft-spoken podcasts like the podcast Sleep With Me. My best friend Tammy loved listening to that, especially the night before she would go do a long run and marathon training. It's like a man talking about historical facts or boring books or information, just like on and on and on for hours and hours and hours, and it doesn't matter. It's inconsequential. And so she'd be out like a light. You could also tune into an audiobook or a meditation that you've listened to before. You go back to Insight Timer and look up some meditations, or you could read a book without a lot of high stakes or plot twists. I will say that a lot of people turn to my book, Your Grief Your Way, which is a short daily devotional when they wake up in the middle of the night. You can read the passage of the day. You can read it on the death day or the birthday of somebody that you know or love. You can flip to a random page and see what resonates with you. You can journal with it, whatever the case may be. Just anything that kind of keeps your nervous system at a calm and even level. And I will never forget the day I had a client walk up to me and tell me that they loved my podcast. And I was so flattered. I was like, I'm so excited to meet you in real life. We were at a grief event together. But then she said, but I've never listened to an episode all the way through. I have no idea what your grief tips are. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, hearing my voice helped her sleep for the first year after her husband died. So if you would like to go back and find episodes of Grief Grower, as well as Grief Seeds, Coming Back, you can find all of those podcasts wherever you listen, here on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever podcasts are found, as well as Insight Timer. So whatever platform you are on, you can search Shelby for City, and chances are you will find my podcast as well, if my voice is one that you find personally soothing. But I will never forget that. And a lot of people are like, your voice is just so soothing. And I'm like, that's such a nice compliment, especially in the face of grief, is to not be an additional agitator to people's nervous systems. But if you're still listening this far, thank you so much. And now you do know some of my grief tips for getting through life after loss. Okay, the next one in this section is one I invented with a client, and it is to leave an imaginary voicemail for a loved one. So if you wake up in the middle of the night, this can be helpful for your grieving heart, your grieving brain, your grieving body. A few years back, I worked with a client who was grieving her best friend who died from cancer. They were close by neighbors, and they were very used to talking regularly, and my client was struggling to sleep through the night. She'd go to bed fine, and then she'd be up at like 2, 3, 4 in the morning. So together we created an exercise called leaving a voicemail, where she would pretend to call her friend and tell her about her day and say everything that was on her heart. And after talking it out with her friend and imagining her message was received, she was able to fall asleep again. So you could try this by speaking aloud or recording a voice memo if you live alone or sleep in your own bedroom, or by talking, air quotes here, to a loved one in your mind. And if you are grieving a loss other than death, like a divorce or a life-changing diagnosis, you might imagine someone else who is dead that you could speak to, an artist, a historical figure, a spiritual guide, a public figure, as the person who is receiving your voicemail. But it's a really lovely thought to think of like their spiritual or their metaphorical inbox receiving your message. And again, you don't necessarily have to believe that they are alive after death, like there's a distinct connection there, but just this sense of like, what if there was a world in which, I don't know, I'll go back to the Golden Girls, Betty White had an inbox for everyone who spoke to her from planet Earth in her death. And she would listen to your messages. She may not be able to respond in ways that we can understand from where we are here right now on planet Earth in the year 2026, but wouldn't it be so cool if you could go leave her a voicemail? There's actually, I'm going to go on a tangent really quick, but there's a practice surrounding this that's very real, that happens in real life, called wind phones, W-I-N-D, phones, P-H-O-N-E-S, where people set up phones in all different corners of the world, and they're kind of like ghost phones. You pick up the phone, no one is on the other line, but you imagine that they are. A loved one who's died, normally, is the recipient of the phone call, and you say everything that's on your heart that you wish you could say to them. And the sense of the phone is that it's carried by the wind to wherever they are. If you'd like to learn about wind phones more, one of my favorite authors in grief named Colin Campbell, whose 2 children died in a car accident, set up a wind phone, I believe somewhere in California, but he speaks regularly about wind phones on his social media platforms and where the wind phone has been relocated to. I also have a friend and past podcast guest named Morgan Brown who came on Coming Back, I think in 2018 or 2019, to talk about a wind phone that she set up as part of a grief installation. So this is literally taking the idea of a wind phone, the concept of a wind phone, and putting it in your bedroom in the middle of the night. You could even, if you wanted to go the extra mile, get a disconnected phone from the thrift store, like an old school rotary phone or something fun, a hamburger phone, a banana phone, and set it up next to your bedside and pretend to make phone calls in the middle of the night when you can't sleep, if that sounds fun or interesting or helpful to you. Okay, this last one here is one that I discovered recently, but I knew it needed to be on this list, and it is called doing the cognitive shuffle. And it is an exercise that's sort of a mindfulness brain trick that gets you back to sleep. The reason I was so excited about this is because I am not a breathing exercise person. I lose track of seconds while I'm doing breathing exercises, and then I end up holding my breath for longer than I need to, which is more stressful than relaxing, and then I'm more focused on the numbers and am I breathing right than I am in the practice of actually being soothed. If I'm doing any sort of mindfulness exercise, I like to do my own breathing. Let me breathe for myself. And my body will figure out how to rest from there. So recently I read about an alternative mindfulness exercise that helps your brain wind down for sleep without involving your breath. And it really helps. I have tried this so many times in seasons of insomnia in my life, and it's so helpful. It takes your brain from this like wired and linear thinking of, I've got to make that appointment tomorrow, or I'll never get back to sleep, or like random music that's stuck in your head, to unrelated and scrambled thinking, which is more what our brain does when we're sleeping. So when our brains are dreaming, we are picking and pulling things we saw today, things we did 10 years ago, metaphorical concepts like this, and organizing seemingly random items of information in the brain is what our brain does when dreaming. And that process is called cognitive shuffling. And the guy who invented it is a doctor named Dr. Luc P. I'm going to pronounce this as best I can, Baudouin. Beaudoin, and he is a Canadian cognitive scientist. So the process goes like this. Step 1 is to pick out a word you can easily spell, like the word beauty. Begin with the first letter, B, and think of a word that starts with the letter B. For example, broom, and then bring up the mental image of a broom if you can. I'm thinking like a traditional wooden handle with like golden, what's it called? Golden sweepers is what I'm going to call it, but like a cartoon broom is what I would picture. For me, when I do cognitive shuffling, I will usually repeat the word in my head 4 times. So I will have my eyes closed. I will think of a broom and I'll go broom, 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 and sort of pulse that image in my head. And then think of another word that begins with the letter B and visualize that word. Keep going until you run out of words that begin with the letter B. And for me, I find that it's helpful if the words are as absolutely unrelated as possible. They're all nouns, but they're all unrelated. So like broom, begonia, battleship, bagel, bracelet. Like those words aren't immediately and directly tied to each other in any sort of way for me. And so it forces my brain to jump around to these different categories of things. Like one is a household cleaning object, one is a plant, one is a war machine, one is an article of food, the other is an article of jewelry. Like these are not related things in my brain. They would not go in the same category, but they all start with the letter B. And so sort of forcing my brain to picture these different nouns, these different objects, and shuffle them around in ways that are mindful but intentional mimics what my brain is doing in sleep. When you run out of B words, move on to the next letter in beauty, which is E, and now start to think of nouns that begin with E. Visualize all the words. You can do that 4 repetition pulsing if you want, as you think of them. And then continue at your own pace, but just keep going to the end of the word until you fall asleep. If you get to the end of the word and run out of Y words, for example, go back to B and start again, but challenge yourself to think of different words. And Dr. Baudouin recommends if stressful thoughts come your way, I have this appointment tomorrow, I can't believe they're still dead, this random music that is popping into my head, just acknowledge them, say, yes, that is true, and then go back to the most recent word that you chose. Bracelet, 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 bracelet. And if thinking of words yourself is too exhausting, Griever, I hear you. I have done the homework for you. Try searching anywhere for cognitive shuffling meditation online in your favorite meditation app. I have found a few. There's some on YouTube. There are some on Insight Timer, and you can find them and listen to them yourself, and they choose the words for you. They choose the pictures in your head for you, so you do not have to invent them yourself, because that is something that I imagine can be so exhausting when you are grieving. The last bit of this episode is for the people who are afraid that they're sleeping too much, because a lot of sleeping in life after loss, people are like, I can't get back to sleep. I'm struggling with insomnia. Most of the fears that I hear from my clients are, I can't get good sleep at night. I am not sleeping enough hours. My sleep is very poor quality. I wake up and then I can't get back to sleep. It's things of I have too few hours in my night, and I know how crucial sleep is to dealing with all the things you have to deal with when you're navigating loss. So I want to flip the script on that and talk to the people who are afraid that they're sleeping too much. The truth of it, and what I know from my own experience, is that sleeping more than usual after loss is exactly what your body needs. Grief, as you know, is not just emotional. It is physical. Your brain and your body are working overtime to process things like shock and pain and heartbreak and your new reality, being alive in this world where loss has blown right through it. So it makes perfect sense, if you feel that you are sleeping too much, that your brain and your body want to stay in bed. After my mom died, and I've talked about this on previous episodes of Grief Grower, I had to grieve my identity as a morning person. I used to get up with the sun and just be so full of energy and song and just a chutzpah to just like get up and go through the day. After she died, though, my body would not get up before 10 a.m. unless I had the pressure of a class I was going to miss or flunk out of to get up for. And it took months before it felt like I had energy and the capacity to wake up early in the morning again. So if you are sleeping later, if you are taking tons of naps, or if you're feeling like your body is constantly made of lead, you are just always exhausted, that is okay. That is a normal part of grief, and it is not a flaw. It is your brain and body doing their best to take care of you as you negotiate life after loss. I will say, if changes in your sleeping routines have you feeling anxious and you're telling yourself this story of I'm sleeping too much, this is not okay, consider using the phrase right now, which I talk about more in my book, Of Course I'm Here Right Now, to frame this season of your life as a temporary one. For example, right now I need more sleep than I used to, or it's okay for me to prioritize rest right now. While it's just 2 words, adding them to any thought that you have about your sleep or any conversation that you're having can help you remember that this sleep-heavy season that you're living in right now is just that, a season of your life, and that things can change and probably will change as you continue to live. Here's when you should be concerned. There are a handful of moments when sleeping too much could be a sign to reach out for more support than I can give you here on Grief Grower. The first one is if you're missing work, school, or important responsibilities on a regular basis. The second is if you are withdrawing from all relationships or daily tasks in order to get more sleep. The third is if you are sleeping to avoid the pain of grief but not feeling more rested when you wake up. And the last one, if you have had thoughts of, I wish I could sleep and not wake up. You do not have to know what kind of support that you need. I just recommend that you start by telling somebody that you trust, ideally someone who specializes in helping people navigate grief and sleep like a doctor or therapist. Especially after a loss, the last thing I want for you is for sleep to be a source of further suffering. If anything, sleep should be one of the few things in our life after devastating loss where we get a little bit of relief. Here's what I want to leave you with today. Rest is important, especially in grief. I hope you treasure sleep. And grief changes our relationship with everything in our lives, including the way that we sleep, that we go to bed, and what we do during the day that impacts what happens at bedtime. But when you have helpful rituals and tools and support, you can find, if you don't have it right now, your way back to resting soundly again. Whether you are giving yourself permission to nap or experimenting with insomnia-inspired mindfulness practices like cognitive shuffling or journaling about your ideal dreams before you go to bed, I know that your body and brain will be so grateful that you are taking time and energy and effort to prioritize sleep. And if you would like even more support navigating grief during the day, coping with heavy emotions, creating rituals for bedtime that support your healing, I would so love to see you inside of Life After Loss Academy, where you will find weekly coaching and helpful tools and loving community for rebuilding your life after loss. You can learn more about the course and the community and join us at any time. It is open year-round at the link in the show notes. May you rest so easy tonight. That's all for this episode of Grief Grower. Thank you so very much for joining me today. If you're looking for grief support beyond the show, you can find free workshops, blog articles, and my brand new What's Your Grief Supporter Strength quiz at shelbyforsythia.com/links. And if you'd like to get support from me for your unique loss, join us in Life After Loss Academy, my online course and community. As a student, I will walk you through my 5-step grief framework for rebuilding after loss, and you can get live coaching from me every single week to answer your questions and to help you through life's obstacles. Replays are always available if you can't attend the live coaching sessions. It is just $33 a month to join, or $22 a month if you're a marginalized or financially stressed griever, and you can cancel at any time. If this podcast felt validating, comforting, educational, or helpful to you, please subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And be sure to share Grief Grower with a friend, because you never know what someone you love is going through. Grief Grower is hosted by me, Shelby Forsythia, and theme music is by Addie Goldstein. Until next time, Grief Growers, I see you. I am so proud of you and the work that you're doing in the world, and I love you. Because even through grief, we are growing.